Hey guys, it's Toonie Coasters here, and I recently went to Six Flags Magic Mountain, and I had a ton of fun, and I decided to make a list of my top 9 favorite thrill coasters at the park. I wasn't able to get on X2, Apocalypse, or Viper because they were closed, and Superman and Ninja had stupidly long lines, so I couldn't get on them. Anyways, let's get into it. Coming in at the number 10 spot is Scream, a 150-foot, 65-mile-per-hour B&M floorless. So, I sat in the back row, which apparently was a big mistake. The ladder was so bad it felt like bad headbanging. On the corkscrews, cobra roll, and dive loop, I had horrible headbanging. It sucks though, because the layout seems pretty good. It probably didn't help I was in the very back, but most of the other rows had very large lines, considering they're running one train, and I timed it almost 5-minute dispatches. It sucked. The only smooth parts were the first loop and drop. Also, the transition out of the mid-course brake run is very painful. I do not recommend this ride. Coming in at the number 8 spot is Gold Rusher. This coaster was kind of bumpy and jerky, but it wasn't so bad. It was a little boring, but not super boring. I got a couple floater moments and the turns were okay, although this coaster's focus is on scenery. You go past Full Throttle's loop and Top Hat, you run into a Superman's track, and while I was under the track, Superman went right over us. My ears hurt for a couple minutes after that from how loud that coaster is. Also, there was tons of greenery and it's pretty relaxing. Overall, a pretty good family coaster. Coming in at the number 7 spot is the New Revolution. This ride is quite fun, although I'm not a fan of the amount of trim brakes. The turns and little drops are pretty fun, and I sat in the very front. The lead up before the loop is pretty cool. It's at a very shallow angle, and you don't feel like you have enough speed to make the loop, and then the loop comes. This loop is actually quite intense for being on a family coaster. It was fun, not much to say. Only had to wait about 15 to 20 minutes for it. It's a pretty good family coaster. Coming in at the number 6 spot is Batman the Ride. This is my first B&M invert, and I rode it twice. The first time I sat in row 3, and it was a station wait pretty much. Waited less than 10 minutes for row 4. The first time I rode it, I really liked it. It was intense, smooth, fun, although it did have some head banging on the corkscrews and zero-G roll. The second time I rode it, though, I rode in the front seat, which you think would be better, but no. I don't know what it was, but after the drop, it was a bit too whippy, and it had a little bit more of a rattle, and it had a bit more head banging. The loops were kind of shaky, and I didn't like the second ride. 8 out of 10 for the first ride, and 4 out of 10 for the second. It's still a really good coaster, though, and I recommend it. Just don't go in the front seat. So now we're into the top 5, and my number 5 is Goliath. So this is the tallest and fastest coaster I've been on, and I actually really liked it. This is my first hyper coaster. I sat in the back seat, so the drop and some of the airtime moments were actually pretty good. I got strong floater airtime on the drop and first airtime hill after the turnaround. The double downward helix at the end was very intense, and I grayed out. It was the first time I've ever grayed out on a coaster. It was a weird feeling. This ride is very fun, and I recommend it. And it was a complete walk-on in the morning. Moving on to the number 4 spot is the Riddler's Revenge. This was my first stand-up coaster, and I loved it. The drop is fun, the vertical loop is really good, and every element is great. The 2 floater airtime moments were very cool when standing up. I was able to position my seats while I was comfortable, but my legs were still almost fully extended. I also got a front row ride and didn't have to wait at all because I was a single rider. The stand-up feature made me feel so free, and I like this much better than Screen. Overall, it's a very good ride, and I recommend it. So, coming in at the number 3 spot is Tatsu, and oh my god, this ride is so intense, it's absolute insanity. This is my first flying coaster I've ridden. I closed my eyes right as the lift hill went over the crest of the mountain and I was staring straight down, 200 feet up. I was on row 7, the people looked like ants. Then the layout started. It was already very intense and I loved the rolls, and then the pretzel loop came. This part is my favorite part of the ride. It is so intense. It felt like my heart was sinking towards my back. It was insane. Also, someone on the train before me barfed on the final brake run, so I got a great view of that. But anyways, this ride is amazing, and I strongly recommend it. It's so fun and intense. You should really ride it. So my number 2 favorite coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain is Full Throttle. I'm glad I went on this first, because it got the day to a great start. This coaster is amazing. The launches are powerful. It has that amazing 160-foot tall vertical loop with the hat going over it. And it got some great hang time on the top hat and hang time on the loop. I also got a sign in the front seat, which I was super happy about. Only waited about 10 minutes. This is an amazing ride, and I strongly recommend it. So, my number 1 favorite coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain is Twisted Colossus. and this ride is insane. I sat in the back row, and the drop is crazy. Oh, and I also do it literally neck and neck when I was on the blue side. The interaction elements between the two tracks are amazing, and there were so many airtime moments. I screamed the loudest I ever have on a coaster. It was amazing. I was in the back seat too. It was crazy. Because of lines and limited time, I only got to go on it once though. I only waited less than 10 minutes for it though. This ride is phenomenal, and this is a must ride if you go to Six Flags Magic Mountain. If I had to choose one ride at the park, this would definitely be it. Anyways, guys, that's it for today. I hope you like this video. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, see you guys in the next one.